Welcome to Enlightenment Unknown Life of a Spiritual Nomad. Join Reiki Master and Quantum Healing expert Wes Coons as he guides listeners through the depths of self-discovery and spiritual enlightenment to uncover the version of you we haven't met yet.
Welcome to Enlightenment Unknown Life of a Spiritual Nomad. My name is Wes Coons, and this is the season finale of Season 5. I can't believe we're here. Summer is over. I tell you what, I've had a busy year. I don't know about you. The energy's been crazy. Stuff has been happening. You know, life happens, right? If you haven't figured out by now, I'm the type of person that tells you to do the things that I'm doing, meaning I'm not going to have a pack of cigarettes in my hand and say, hey, bro, you shouldn't be smoking, right? So I like to share my experiences because I think it's important, because I believe if I can do it, you can do it, right? And this whole show is about how life happens for you and not to you, and you're one vibrational shift away from being the best version of yourself, being the person that you're craving to be. However, you've got these blocks. That's what we're talking about, is removing blocks that no longer serve you. And one of the blocks I've been struggling with is spirituality and religion. Every single time, personally for me, I step my toe into the religion box and go down to the church or whatever, I am told, you're wrong. You pray wrong. This is wrong. That's wrong. You're not this. You're not that. And I got to be honest, I'm tired of it. I've lived my whole life feeling less than, being told that I'm not good enough, and people placing me in a box, and my ass agreeing with that and staying in the box. I'm not doing it anymore. There's going to be a segment added to Enlightenment Unknown Life of a Spiritual Nomad called the Sunday Preach. And the Sunday Preach is a segment where we talk about God and our spirituality, because I'm tired of people telling me that the gifts that God gave me are wrong. That when I do healing work on somebody, it's the devil's work, but when they do it, it's God's work. We're done. We're not doing that anymore. So the Sunday Preach is going to come out probably every 2 weeks right now. And, you know, I'm just figuring that part out. I'm getting out of my head the aspect or the thoughts of, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I've not done this. I haven't read the Bible to the extent that some of the other people have looked at the Bible, right? But if you followed the show in season 1, I touched his feet. I touched the foot of Jesus. He looked me in the eye and told me he loved me. And when I pray to God, when I'm quiet, the stereo's turned off, I'm focused, I hear his words. And I know I'm following my divine path. So you're going to see the Sunday Preach, no shoes required, coming out here soon. I'm excited about it. I'll be honest, I'm a little nervous. But you know what? If you're like me, if you're listening to this show, I think you're like me. I think you have a passion for this work. You have a passion to learn more about yourself. You have a passion to connect with God, but doing it in a safe place. And that's what I'm going to provide. So, no fear, no guilt. And we're going to be doing that. So I'm excited about it. The reality is that's most likely going to be a video podcast. So you'll be able to see that on YouTube. And I've got to get out of my head on doing those videos. That's the old version of me who believed that I was ugly, weak, and stupid. And this is pushing the envelope on that. And the reality is none of those things are true. Just like the things that you say to yourself or somebody has said to you that you believe, that's not true. It's not who you are. Everything that we need is inside of us. And we're going to talk about that. And we're going to find that. And we're going to nurture it. And together, we're going to grow. So I'm excited. Abby is excited. She and I just had a birthday last week. I'm, 56? Yay, me. But my 50s has been good. And Abby just turned 2, and she's wild and crazy. And we went up to see Lakota, the medicine woman, this last weekend, did some work for her. But I wanted to talk about my heart being broken. My friend Glenn died. Glenn Ryder. I love Glenn Ryder. I just do. He worked with me for 17 years. And check this out. He was paddleboarding, I don't know, month to 6 weeks ago. And he died paddleboarding. So we know he didn't drown. And I like to think, he's just rocking along doing the things that he loves. And all of a sudden God said, it's time to go. And he just hit the water. So good for him on that. I mean, doing what you want to do when it's time to go home is a beautiful thing. But I've been missing my friend. To take a step back, this is hard for me. I've been wanting to talk about Glenn for a little while, and I had the opportunity to speak at his funeral. Glenn knew he was on borrowed time. His heart had problems, and about a month before he died, he told me he was afraid he was going to have an issue with his heart while he was paddleboarding and die, and that's exactly what happened. So he wanted to get a life vest, and he had gained weight and the vest did not fit. So I bought him this whistle to go around his wrist, and he's like, I was like, Glenn, I got you a rape whistle, man. But in all seriousness, I'm like, dude, you can use this if there's a problem. And, at the end of the day, he just went home and there was nothing anybody could do. So I had the opportunity to speak at his funeral. And it was interesting. I'm always looking for ways to heal. I'm always looking for ways to elevate my vibration. And when I walked in there, the dynamics of the room were significant for me. The physician that wrote my wife a registered letter 20 years ago saying, hey, your husband has a prescription drug problem and you guys need to address it. And she was right. She saved my life. I didn't know how to ask for help. I just knew I was in pain, and I'm not just talking about my back, right? She was there. And somebody who stole from me was in that room. And then another lady that came in, she worked for me at one point, and when she quit, I could have done it better. But the nice thing is I had already made an amends to her for my side of the street, because that's all I can do. That's all we can do is clean our side of the street. So this little church probably seats a couple hundred people or more. I don't know how many was there. And it's down off of Bird Neck Road, down where the construction's going. I forget the name of it. But if you're from Virginia Beach, the construction's been going for 75 years, it seems like. So we go in there, and I'm looking at the room, and I'm looking at these people. And of course, I've got insight to his relationship with his children. My son, Taylor, hasn't spoken to me in 14 years. My ex-wife and I were only married 12. So it's a bit ridiculous that we don't have a relationship. However, we don't. And I don't understand that at all. And Glenn had that issue with some of his children, not all of them, but some of them. And so when we're looking at the people that we associate with and that we're around and come into our energy field, they're a direct reflection of ourselves. Glenn struggled with unworthiness. I struggled with unworthiness. We had similar spouses. We have similar relationships with our children. And the man I met 17 years ago is not the man that died that day. He healed from so much of that stuff. He healed from his divorce and the things that were going on in his life. So he was rebuilding things. He was spending time with his grandchildren. So he told me this story. It was the cutest story. I guess one of the grandbabies, one of the little granddaughters wanted to go get shoes, and his nickname was G. So that was his, instead of grandpa, it's G. And Glenn's probably 5'10", a little overweight, bald, got this big goofy ass smile. And I love his smile. And he's telling me, he says, the older granddaughter knows how to manipulate me, right? And to get what she wants, but not the younger one. I'm thinking, yeah, I think she's got it figured out. But she wanted 2 pairs of shoes. And he's like, no, G's going to buy 1 pair of shoe. I'm pretty confident that little girl got 3 pairs of shoes. So when he would talk about his children, it was just beautiful to experience. And the grandbabies just lit him up. And I got the opportunity to talk. And as I was going up there, the person that I had conflict with reached out and shook my hand. He said, what I did was wrong, and I want to say I'm sorry. And I'm like, brother, I forgave you a long time ago. Let's just be friends and move on. And the old version of me might not have been that nice, right? But I did. I let that go a long time ago. However, it clearly affected him still. So as I get up there and I start talking, I look in the audience and there's the physician that saved my life 20 years ago. I seen her. I thought I noticed her when I first came in, but when I was up there, I seen her and the look on her face. She's looking at me with this anger in her eyes and this judgment. And I got to be honest, I don't blame her, right? The honest answer was, at that time in my life, I was struggling, and I went to that doctor's office trying to get prescription pain pills. That's what I was doing. So that's what she knew. But that's not who I am today, right? And so I got to tell the story to his daughters about how he talked about them all the time and how much he loved them and how proud he was of his children. And all of them got to hear a clear message from Glenn about them. And I was talking about how sometimes we take turns saving each other. And I said, for example, the physician that saved my life 20 years ago is sitting right there. And I looked at her with tears in my eyes and I said, thank you. Thank you for saving me. I mean, the ceremony, I even said when I was talking, I said, this sucks. Today sucks. But I am going to take the opportunity to heal something and live my life. And that's one of the things that Glenn would always say, hey, it's time to, I forget his exact words, but when things weren't going well, he's like, well, it's time to get going. It's time to move on. It's time to get going. And this guy had the unique ability to sell real estate like nobody else I've ever seen. I mean, he would leave my office and disappear for 5 or 6 days and come back with 3 or 4 brand new, beautiful listings. And his son said, well, Glenn's not in heaven yet because he's still talking to St. Peter at the pearly gate, which is true. He could talk. But I knew Glenn had not crossed over to the light. I've been communicating with him. And the day that he died, I was in bed and I woke up at like 5 o'clock, 5:30, whatever. And I was taking Abby to the beach and I clearly heard out loud, do not go. And I'm like, all right, which was weird, but I follow what I hear these days. And when God or my guides or whatever you want to call that voice was that said, "Hey, brother, don't go." I looked at the dog and turned off the alarm and went back to bed. But the reality is that had I gone, I would have seen my friend dead on the beach. That's a sight that I do not want to see. And do you know what the miracle in all of this was? There was a young lady that took a picture of a guy on a paddleboard as the sun was coming up, and 20 minutes later he was dead, and she was praying over his body. I think she's like 18, 20-year-old young lady. She told her aunt, and her aunt noticed me talking about his death on one of the TV station's Facebook pages when I was saying, hey, he was a really nice guy, because not everybody's polite. Everybody thinks they're freaking Mike Tyson when they're posting stuff on the internet. And I'm like, hey, the guy had a medical emergency. He was a wonderful person. And she reached out and she gave me that photo. So I'm going to put that up today on VB Healer, my VB Healer on Instagram. So if you want to see it, that is Glenn 20 minutes before he went home. I mean, how does that happen, right? And on top of that, he had written goodbye notes to all his friends. This was not like a suicide letter or anything silly like that. But he wanted people to know what he thought about them. And his son texted me mine, a picture of it, and it was beautiful. And I am grateful for that. But that morning when I woke up, my phone was ringing and it was his son. And I knew when I seen his number come up, something had happened. And when I heard him crying, I knew Glenn had died. And like moments later, Glenn came to me. He's like, I don't understand. I said, well, honey, you died today. And he goes, no way, man, no way. And that's how he would talk. He's like, no way, I still had things to do. And I'm like, I understand. But I said, is there anybody around you? And he said, I think it was his mother was there. And he said, how can that be? I was like, honey, because you died today. And I could just hear him screaming. He was so upset. And that night I felt him, I could feel him sitting over his grandchildren and watching them sleep. And I heard him say, he says, hey, Wes, this is kind of cool. I'm not in pain anymore. And then he figured out he could go see everybody really quickly, and he was doing all that. And we've had the most wonderful conversations. So I told him, I said, when you're ready, he said, I'm not going to the light. I'm not going anywhere. I said, okay. I said, but when you're ready, come see me. And ironically, I had finally gotten him to come see me for a healing session, like probably 2 months before he died. It kind of freaked him out, which I can wholeheartedly understand. But he had the greatest healing session. He said, man, I felt the angels come in and talk to me and touch me. And my heart doesn't hurt and I feel fantastic. I'm like, well, come back next week. And he never would come back. But Sandra Grace told me years ago, she said, honey, your job isn't to save everybody. Sometimes when you do healing work on people, you're preparing them to be able to cross over easily. And I hated that statement. I want to save everybody. I had this beautiful client that came in, early 50s. She said, they want to put me in hospice. I'm like, well, maybe we don't do that. 2 months later, she comes in for another session. She said, my blood work is normal. They're not putting her in hospice. The doctor says, I don't understand it. Clearly your medicine's working. I said, well, something's working. And everything's normal. I try not to get in my head on how can I help somebody. Well, I mean, I'm not doing the work. Jesus does the work. But, that client came into my healing space and maybe the blocks were removed for the medicine to work. I don't know. Maybe Jesus touched her and removed the cancer. I don't know. But I do know this. She's doing it, and it's not my job to try to figure out what's what. I didn't do anything. I'm simply the tool. I'm the wrench that Jesus picked up to work on that client. And maybe she didn't claim her disease anymore. Maybe she didn't have cancer after we spoke. Because I know when they diagnosed me, I'm like, oh, fuck no. You ain't putting that on me. And when I came in for all the blood work, they're like, well, there's nothing there. Yeah. So don't claim the stories that people tell you. You're not ugly. You're not weak. You're not stupid. You're not sick. You have healing to do. You're not broken. You have healing to do. You're not lost. You have healing to do. The reality is you have every single thing you need inside of you. You just need to turn your light on and find it. And that's what I've been trying to do. Because I don't know about you, but a triple doctorate in fucking misery and pain and feeling less than, and I don't anymore. At least at that level. One of the things I've been doing recently is looking at the people that choose me and then the people that I try to put myself in front of so they choose me. And those people I've just walked away from. And the funny thing is, nobody's called looking for me. Nobody said, hey, Wes, where are you at? I need to make you my whipping post today. And then I went back and I said, there's some people that chose me that I did not choose and I disrespected, like my friend Jessica. She reached out to me wanting to be my friend, and I didn't have the bandwidth at the moment to be there. So instead of me being a grown-ass adult and saying, hey, I'm really struggling myself right now, I just ignored her. I ghosted her. And so we've reconnected recently, and I told her, I said, I've not been the friend to you that you deserve, and I want to apologize. And I'm working on making an amends for that, because at the end of the day, when we do that to somebody, when we hurt somebody, we lose respect and trust miles at a time, but we gain it back in inches. But you know what? I'm fucking willing to get on my hands and knees and crawl the inches to show to somebody, you know what? I appreciate you and I respect you and I was wrong. And I'm going to make an amends, and I'm going to say I'm sorry, and I am going to change my behavior. Because that's who I want to be. So as I looked across the room of all these beautiful people here to see Glenn, I mean, there were clients, there were people that hardly knew him, there were loved ones, there was family. He was a big-time surfer. And so the surfing community was there, even though Virginia Beach has like 2-foot waves on a good day. So we try to surf. But I finished that dedication to him. I said, my name is Wes Coons and Glenn Ryder was my friend. That says everything to me. I love Glenn Ryder. I've been messing with, I ordered this book called Climate from Whitney Hansen. It's poetry. And it's funny, I've been reading it and just sobbing over and over. I'm like, geez, Andrew used to say all the time, you cry more than girls. And I'm like, well, that's the pain in me coming out, right? But there was a segment in there, I couldn't find it when I came in here to record, but basically it says, the love that you give to so many others, why don't you let it flow through your own veins for the first time? And that just spoke volumes to me, because that was Glenn. That's me. That's a lot of us that's listening to this. But one of the things I'm trying to do different is live my life. I've been a bit of a hermit the last few years, right? I like to blame it on my spiritual awakening. And if you listen to that first couple seasons, you understand what that was like. That sucked. But I blame it on all these things. And the reality is, Glenn would tell me to go have fun. Go take your surfboard down to the beach, Wes. We got the new surf park down here, so I went and took a lesson. And part of that was Glenn had the same heart issue that I have. My brother has the same blood issue that I have, and they're both dead from their conditions. But the reality is I'm healing from mine. That is not my destination. That is an opportunity for me to heal. And ever since Glenn's funeral, my heart's been feeling great. And I've been to the doctor, and the doctor's like, brother, I don't see anything wrong. So that tells me it's energetic, right? You know, I've had a broken heart for so long. It's all I've known. And I don't have a broken heart anymore, so I'm trying to figure that part out. I think you understand what I'm saying about that, right? So I can feel alone in a room with 1,000 people. So afterwards, they're all in there having snacks and cake and stuff. And there are some people there that I knew, and we talked for a moment or two. And I needed to get out of there. I just wanted to go. And I was grateful that being in a room full of people, I didn't feel alone. I just wanted to leave. That's a big step for me. And as I stepped through the church doors, Glenn ran up to me. And one thing I did not know about my friend, man, he was a sexy beast back in the day. I mean, he had this long mane of blonde hair. He's like this surfer looking guy, and he was hot, man. I'm like, get it, Glenn. So when he came up to me, he looked like that 31-year-old guy, and he had a surfboard. So if you know anything about surfing, if they've got a short board, they're a good surfer. So he had his short surfboard under his arm, his long golden locks, and he says, I'm ready to go. And I'm crossing the street. There's people all around me and stuff, right? And I'm like, well, give me a second. He said, I'm ready to go. So I stopped right there, and I called in a column of white light. It's easy to do. I asked Archangel Michael, I said, please bring a column of white light. My hands just get hot. And Glenn stepped right into that light, and he went to heaven. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't need to. He didn't need to. But my friend would never have guessed all those people would be in that room. My friend would think maybe 5 or 6 people would show up. And to have that almost standing room only warmed my heart. So now, Glenn, I love you and I miss you. And you're going to live forever on this podcast. And there's people that are hearing this in over 100 countries. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for honoring me. Thank you for participating. And if you haven't heard it today, I just want you to understand that you are important, you are gifted, you are beautiful, and you are loved. And when I say I love you, it doesn't mean I want you. I'm just saying I love you. The light in me recognizes the light in you. And if you haven't been told today that you're loved, I love you. So I guess season 6 is getting ready to start, right? And I've been working with my friend Sarah on building the website and doing stuff and putting these programs together to help with my healing practice and to heal people throughout the world. And that's going to be up and running soon. And she's going to come on the show whether she likes it or not. So she's a really nice lady. Her and her fiance, they have like 6 children. They're wonderful people. But God sent her to me. I had interviewed other people to help me do this, and just nothing felt right. And one of the things I like to do is I just pray. I'll just ask God. I said, hey, if this is what you want me to do, you need to put that person in front of me. And they don't always just knock on the front door. The way I met her was I was talking to somebody about ice cream cones, right? There's a place in Norfolk, Virginia, and the guy there owned a barbecue place, and he made the first ice cream cone in the history of the world. So you can go there to Dumars and see the ice cream cone machine. I don't know if he's still alive, but if he's not, he just passed away not too long ago. He's like 100 years old, right? And he would go in once a week still and make all these cones. So I was talking about that to a friend, and this lady that I just became friends with on Instagram, named Sarah, posts pictures of them at Dumars getting ice cream. And I messaged her after that. And I looked at her page and I looked at the work that she did, and I was like, holy cow, she helps people create online businesses and understand who they are as a business and stuff. And that's what I'm looking for. So we started talking, and in short order, I hired her. So the point is, God will send you what you need. You have to pay attention. I knew enough to pay attention when she's sitting there holding a freaking ice cream cone from a place in Norfolk, right? That's how the connection is sometimes. So it's not always the burning bush. So I want you to pay attention. When you're praying for things, you only have to ask one time. If your heart's open, your mind is clear, meaning the things you think about, the things you say, your activities and your heart is open, is all in that direction for what you're asking for, you're going to receive it. But sometimes it just doesn't knock on the door. You have to look around. So do yourself a favor. Look around for the gift that you asked for. It may already be in front of you. And the real gift is already inside you. So like I said, the Sunday Preach will be up soon. I hope you like it. And my name is Wes Coons, and Glenn Ryder is my friend.
You've been listening to Enlightenment Unknown with Wes Coons, your guide on the quest for self-discovery and the version of you we haven't met yet.